Okay, so what I was going to show before I realized I was running out of time in the last video was if I made this window, this curtain wall system taller, what kind of reading that would give me and how that would change. But before I do that, I just want to show you what running the analysis will do if I leave the section box active. So for right now, just kind of keep in mind what the reading looks like right now. So obviously, since there's no windows or anything else going on, the rest of this is blue. If I look from a top view, the rest of that is view. So blue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete that analysis. I'm going to run another one with the section box active. And wait for that to finish. Okay, so this is since this is still in beta, it can be glitchy at times, and it's supposed to remember your last selection, and you should be able to rerun it, without having to reselect. But if it doesn't give you a result, just reselect the floor or any surface that you may be trying to analyze and rerun it. And again, this is how it can be glitchy, where you can see here how it actually worked with the section box still active, and gave you the correct reading. But I have been testing this earlier, where sometimes with the section box active, it'll give you a whole new, a different reading than what you want. So let me see if I can actually get that to the display. What it'll do is it'll think that there's no roof and that you just have walls, and this is open, and it'll make this whole surface hot. That there's basically everything's getting direct contact to the sun. But it's just since this is still in beta, for some reason it works sometimes, and sometimes it gives you a false reading. Sometimes it sticks with the correct reading, and I don't know why that is. I was going through this earlier and trying to figure out why it was working and why it wasn't. But for the most part, the question against that is what I would say is, okay, so this one is giving me the reading that I want. So now you can see it's thinking that this whole thing, basically what I just reset the view. I reset the section box and redid the analysis. So basically what it's thinking is there's no roof on this. This is open, and this is why you're getting a hot reading there, if I can find. So that's why it's still thinking that your highest reading is at that point, because it thinks there's no roof, so there's direct sunlight right into it. So you always want to. My advice is just to make sure that, and you can see how it disappeared after I pulled this up. That's because I didn't close out to make this an entity. So I always advise to make sure the section box is either not active or it's pulled all the way up, so you're not cutting through anything, and then run the analysis so you can start to see it. Then you can see here, if I pull this down now, it makes that disappear. So what you're going to do is, I can't remember if I might have showed this in the last video. I just can't remember if I did or not. So what you're going to do is you got to run the analysis, and where you get it to what you want it to be, then you close out of the analysis, so it makes this kind of like an entity now, where this kind of analysis, if you kind of however you see that this is the result, it kind of makes it permanent. So now when I do the section, it's there, and that's the correct reading. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that out, and I'm going to just remember how little it only went into a certain amount of distance from the window. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to reset the section box. I'm just going to turn it off, and I'm going to make these windows higher. And then So now I'm going to run the solar analysis again. So we'll actually reset the floor. Reselect the floor. Finish. Analyze. And again, it's still reverting back to the old height of the window. And that's where you got to be careful sometimes, where you can change the height of a window, and since it's just glitchy since this is still in beta, as I mentioned, where you can tell that this is not the reading that you should be getting because the window is a lot taller now, so there should be more area of the floor affected by it. So let me sometimes just kind of switch into another view and then another sheet of view, either a floor plan and then switching back. Should hopefully fix it. Let's see. So this is what I'm also doing these videos as well, to kind of give you some general knowledge of solar radiation. So when you're doing your test, you can kind of double check to see if you're getting the right reading that you should be getting. So let me analyze this. Hopefully it'll work this time. And there you go. It worked that time. So you can see now you're getting a little bit more of the area affected, and it's spread out a little bit more than just kind of that small area that I was getting there. And then again, since I exited out, when I take the section box, that's the results stay, and I can switch to a plan view, and I can start to see, how wide that is. And then also, you can also, if I start to, let me reset it again, and take this off. I'm going to go to a floor plan, and I'm going to actually, I'm going to put a curtain wall on this side. So now I have a curtain wall on that side and on this side. I'm going to run my analysis. Different floor. Finish. Analyze. Exit out. So now you can see it's giving me, since I have another window in now, it's giving me how much is coming through both. So I can do a section box and pull down. So now I can go to my top view and I can see what's going on. And again, so this is what's happening here is this is how much solar radiation is coming through the window, hitting the floor, and how much BTUs per foot squared is going to be on that floor now. But obviously, since this is a window with sunlight coming through, it's going to heat the environment as well, and not just the floor. So that's kind of the extra thing where you have glass, where not only is it going to be directly contacting that floor, or if there's another surface there, if it's like a table and chairs or anything like that, what's coming in, plus the actual, if you ever stand near a window that has sun on it, you can actually start to feel the heat coming through, since the sun is always bringing in solar radiation. So that starts to give you the effect of what happens when you start to add different windows and how that affects what's happening with solar radiation on the floor. And what you can start to do with those readings as well is, you can start to think, well, do I want my curtain wall to be that high? Obviously, if it's lower, less area, is affected by solar radiation, since not much is going in. Or, if your window is going to be that high, you can start to, test how much of this actually needs shading device. The whole thing may not need it, maybe, only halfway needs shading device, and that will suffice. or you can always test different things. Maybe the first two rows are glass panel, or glass, and then maybe the top two are glass, but they're less, they're more opaque to help block the sun. So there's always different things that you can start to do and start to play around with. And then there's also, if you kind of, this goes into later on, but if you kind of tab through and select the glass, there's different types of glass that you can make. So double glazing or triple glazing, they have special coatings that you can put on it. So basically what double glazing is just two pieces of glass, maybe like a ½ inch thick, and then in between the two pieces of glass, it's filled with like an argon gas, and that helps kind of insulate the window and mitigate how much solar radiation passes through it when it's being heated on. And then it's the same thing with triple glazing, but again, but with that, there's three pieces of glass now instead of two, and both of the cores are filled with argon gas. There's also, if you go back to that, there is a special coating. It's called low E. You see some glass that start to say low E, and that's a special coating that is put on the glass, and again, that helps with the solar radiation pass through. And so that's kind of more a solution for your glass where, if you don't want if you don't want shading device, or you have a shading device and you make you make the glass either double glazing or triple glazing, so that kind of becomes the answer of okay, so I have a lot of solar radiation on this wall, and then so this is how much is passing through, into that space and onto the floor. So what am I going to do? Okay, I'm going to put a shading device, and I'm going to make the glass, triple glazed with a low E coating, and that's how you start to solve the issue with your solar radiation. So now if I did, let me just to reset this for a second, and then I'm going to delete this results. And just go back to that to reset the view so I get the right reading. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a user selection, and I'm going to select this wall. I'm going to select the floor. I'm going to select this wall. Now you can't select the glass because if you actually read that kind of message that comes up when you hit user selection, it says that glass will not be red. It takes it as 100% opaque, so it's not going to be red. But what you can do is you can select the wall, and obviously you wouldn't do both at once, but I'm just doing them both at once to show you. I'm going to hit finish. I'm going to hit analyze. So when you get your readings for your wall, I'm going to close out so it becomes permanent, and it's taking a section. Actually, I'm going to leave it like this for right now. And so that's and always look, you may start to see different data. So you can see when I did everything, this was more yellow and this was right up there. But now since this is not selected, the highest reading is here, so that's why that's red now. So you're going to always get different colors on different spots, depending on how many objects you actually select. But what you can assume, so since you can't select the glass, what you can assume is, since this is a solid wall, you can select that, and you can assume that, so this is giving you a red reading of 77 BTUs per square foot as an average hour. You can assume that this happens all the way across, and that's what's going to be hitting the glass as well. And then with the floor, that's how much is actually going through the glass and hitting that floor. So that's how you can start to kind of read between the two, where this is how much solar radiation is actually hitting that wall. And then a certain amount is going to pass through that wall depending on how it's constructed and heat the space. And then you can assume the same level is going to hit the any glass wall. But then again, that's gonna, since it's glass, some of it's gonna, it's gonna be passing through and hitting the floor surface. And then obviously, like as I mentioned, you can do different glass types. And that concludes this video.